Okay, in this next section, we will now look at energy and enzymes. We have previously looked at the different kinds of energy. So now let's look at when we say metabolism, what are we talking about? Metabolism is going to be sum total of all reactions. Now, if you look at any reaction, then the starting sum, if you have a reaction, for example, let's write down a reaction saying glucose and an arrow and showing a balanced reaction, three parts of this reaction: 6 carbon dioxide, 6 water molecules, and energy. Now this reaction has reactants, which are the starting material on this side. Usually on the left hand side you write down the reactants, and the products are usually written on the right hand side, which are showing as to what is forming as a result of the process that's going around here. Now some of these reactions can be either exergonic or some can be energonic. X means release or X outside. So some of these reactions will release heat, and this particular one will release heat, and heat will be released or energy is released. On the other hand, there can be reactions which could be the opposite of what we just did. So if we take the reaction which is 6 carbon dioxide, 6 water molecule plus energy that is coming from the sun, it will give us the molecule of glucose. And this would be a reaction that is carried on in the chloroplast or photosynthesis. And in this reaction, we're taking in energy, and this would be an endergonic reaction. A reaction over here I forgot to mix out is the oxygen that it would also be needed to react with the glucose molecule. So exergonic reactions are those that will release energy. Endergonic are those that will take in energy. So let's look at the diagram over here and see what's happening. Here is shown a molecule of ATP. ATP is the currency of the cell. So anytime the cell needs to do any kind of work, it needs to purchase it with this currency, which is called as the ATP. ATP stands for the word adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine is a nitrogenous containing compound. It is linked to this 5 carbon sugar, and notice over here you've got 3 phosphate groups. So the two bonds that I'm highlighting are the high energy bond. What this means is that when ATP is broken, if we break this bond, for example here, notice you've got 2 phosphates plus an inorganic phosphate. This reaction will release tremendous amount of energy. In this reaction, the release of the energy means that energy is released, so the reaction is actually going to be exergonic, and this energy that is released will help another reaction, which is an endergonic reaction, to take place. So usually these reactions are coupled, and we'll talk about it in a previous slide. But this energy that is released is coming because the phosphate bond is broken. However, I'm going to go ahead and erase a lot of this stuff over here. Now, on the other hand, if we take the reaction on the other side and we look at the diphosphate, which is adenosine diphosphate. Adenosine diphosphate is a molecule that has 2 phosphate attached to it, and if a third phosphate is attached, which is ADP plus a phosphate, which is called as the inorganic phosphate, it will form the ATP. Now in this reaction, for these two to link up, you need energy that needs to be provided from the from another source. So there are certain reactions, for example cellular respiration, that is which we will look in the next chapter, and certain reactions will release energy that will help form this ATP molecule. So within the cell there is a constant breakdown and renewal or makeup of ATP. Anytime ATP is broken down, it is going to release energy which is going to help another process of within the cell. For example, protein synthesis, lipid synthesis, synthesis of carbohydrates, a nerve conduction, muscle contraction, movement of movement of muscles, and so forth, will be result of the energy that is released when ATP is broken down. So, for example, when we do excessive exercises, then we are burning off the carbohydrate, and it is using our ATP to do that. Now, let's look at the chemical structure of ATP with a little bit more depth. Adenosine triphosphate is the currency of the cell, and in this reaction you can see that this physical activity is going to dissipate heat, and that's why when we do an strenuous exercise, aerobic or anaerobic, especially aerobic exercises, we will release, we'll feel warm afterwards because we have burned off some of our energy, and is released, the waste is released as heat. Now, the energy that is released by all systems are used for some of the chemical processes, chemical reactions, which is making up the macromolecules or breaking up the macromolecules. Sometimes ATP is also used, for example, pumping substances across the membrane. So when we talked previously about pumping hydrogen ions, that would require transport work, which would be given by ATP. Chemical work would be synthesis or degradation of the larger molecules. Degradation means breaking down of macromolecules. And the mechanical work would be, for example, motion of muscle. So, for example, muscle contracting, or the flagella moving a cell, or a cilia helping the cell move. Those would be all mechanical work that would require energy. So for all reactions within a cell, energy must be formed. And keep also in mind that whatever reactions take place, some of this energy is always going to be wasted, and it's going to be lost as heat. Because no reaction is 100% efficient, in which we can say that the supply of ATP is going to give the maximum yield for a reaction.